My name's Tara Lynn Cox, although back in the day I would have been Tara Updike. I graduated in '93, which was 21 years ago. It seems like quite a long time ago. I lived down on Court Alley, which is off of Hellertown Avenue. I lived in Quakertown for quite a long time, until I was in my mid-20s, I think. I went to Penn State University. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Hotel, Restaurant and Institutional Management, so a business degree. I graduated there in '98. What I do now is that I work for a company called School Website, but we do much more than websites. So I'm a consultant and I advise what we call independent schools, but what you'd refer to as a private school. We advise them on their digital strategy. So in essence, their online presence. So when it comes to websites, pay-per-click, search engine optimization, social media marketing, but the company I work for, they're a creative design agency that handle all of those things. We work with private schools around the globe. So my job, although I'm based in London here, and it's an English company, we service schools in China, in the Middle East, in America, in Canada, South America, you name it. It's all British and American boarding schools, basically any fee-paying school. So my job entails a bit of travel. I'm coming to Washington, D.C. actually in 2 weeks' time. I get to go to Qatar in February, back to the States 3 more times. I get to go to Boston, New Orleans and LA, all before April. Then we'll start doing a lot more stuff in Europe, so we'll end up going probably over to Belgium and Germany, Switzerland, anywhere where they're going to have the, different conferences or wherever our clients are. So, through kind of high school and university, my dream was to either have kind of a bed and breakfast hotel or get into microbrewery. So one of the first jobs I interviewed for out of university was Dock Street Brewing Company in Philadelphia. And although it was what my degree was in, I ended up just staying in the restaurant business for about roughly 19 years, taking me very close to where I am now. But it was kind of on and off for the last kind of 10 years. I stayed in the business, and to be honest, I flip-flopped between management and just bartending, because what it afforded me was the ability to travel around the world. So in the kind of 20-year gap between, leaving university and where I am now, I've traveled all around the world, sometimes just on my own, 4 or 6 months at a time. I've been to Australia, New Zealand. I spent 6 months there. I've traveled around Europe twice, for 2 months at a time. One time I was taking classes in Switzerland, culinary classes, cooking classes, and management classes for international management. I've traveled all over the States. So, although bartending maybe not a very glamorous career, not with a whole lot of prospects, in the end it afforded me to just kind of take off and go do what I wanted to do and do what I wanted with my life. And then I flipped to do management, and it was harder work, more responsibility.
Would you advise kids to, I don't know if it's bartending, but to find a way to travel if that's what you really want to do? Yeah,
absolutely. I think there's two sides to this. One is if your dream is to travel and to experience other cultures, and yes, I would highly recommend it, even as a supplement to, or in some cases just an instead of. But it's like your own university. You're learning all about the different cultures and meeting different people. But it's also about networking. I'm still friends with people in Australia and New Zealand, and I use those connections now in business. Yet I met them 17 years ago,
Wow.
backpacking, and although our lives were very different back then, we can benefit from each other now after all this time. So I think traveling, like I said, as a supplement or an instead of, is kind of your education of life. I would highly recommend it. I would recommend saving enough money to go, not just, and planning it well. Would
you suggest college first, or?
I did college first, and I would say that's probably best. I think what you might find is if you take that, what we call a gap year, I don't know if you call it that, but if you take that gap year and travel first before university, I suppose it has its benefits, but you're still maybe still quite young.
Okay.
Maybe not. Some will be mature enough, maybe some not. You can sure learn a lot, but then you need to have the discipline to finish that and still carry on to university. Don't finish the gap year and then say, couldn't be bothered to go to university. I'll always highly recommend university, even, whether it's for the education side of it's fantastic and you walk out with a degree, but it's also the networking and the socializing, and it gives you just that little bit extra time to mature. I think it's very critical.
Okay. How did you finally get into stay in London?
After all those years in restaurant business, the reasons I moved to London were personal. My husband's family lives here, so I went from living in Florida, which was my last place that I lived in America, just over 7 years ago. We moved from Florida, my husband, myself, and my daughter. At the time, she was 2, and we moved here to be closer to his family. I moved my family over here with us. I'm no longer married. It's my mother and daughter and myself in the house. And yeah, I'm still here. I miss some things about the States, but I do prefer it here, and there are quite a few reasons why.
Can you name 2?
I'd have to say one is the healthcare system. Okay, so it's socialized medicine, so the very thing that Obama would love to keep going, and that I'm not going to get all political on here, but it works. It's been working here for a very long time. Anytime anybody needs to go to the doctor, you just go. It's always free. Everything. They'll even pay for your transport to get to the hospital or the doctor's office if you don't have a car. That's how free it is. It's just free. So I love the NHS, the politics, and the way media treat politics, or the way media treat anything over here. It's kind of a blended effort there. Politics here makes sense to me, and the media tell things that aren't opinionated. They just give facts in a very monotone way, and they let they let us form our own opinions of what's happening in the world. So I feel like I'm getting the truth here, whereas I can still see in America. I think it's I felt somewhat brainwashed. Depending on what news channel you wanted to watch, you feel brainwashed to what their opinions are about what's happening in the news.
Okay, that's great. You sound like you've picked up a bit of an accent.
Just a little bit, yeah. Not everybody can hear it. There's a little bit of Irish in there, a little bit of English, and American, I guess.
Okay. What is your daughter's name?
Oh, her daughter, Cassidy.
Cassidy?
That's the one, yeah.
How about your mom?
Lynn, Lynn.
So people would know her as Lynn Updike?
That's right, yeah. They would. Yeah.
Okay.
She didn't go to school in Quakertown, but she did work at Furniture Unlimited for ages.
Do you keep in touch with any people from Quakertown?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Mostly, I would say I lost touch with a lot of people, but since Facebook started.
Yep.
I'm friends with a lot of people on Facebook, but also I use LinkedIn as a networking tool for my job. So very often I'll meet up with people on LinkedIn and still in touch. And I make it back home. At one point it had been 5 years since I had been back home, but now I'm making it back home at least once a year. And I usually see anywhere between 5 and 10 people that I used to know back at home.
How did you get the training for the website stuff that you're doing?
When I moved here to England, my skills, as I know them, they weren't paid enough. They weren't paid what I felt I was worth back in the States, so I had to choose a new career path. My skill set would be with communicating with people, more of a customer service based type skill set. So I took that and said, well, I should be in sales or a consultant and helping people. I ended up having to start down at the bottom again. I was kind of entry-level positions because I didn't have enough qualifications. Despite having a degree, I didn't have what people were expecting and the experience people were expecting here. So I ended up meeting a friend and I ended up in the education sector here. And I've been in the education sector now for the 7 years I've been here.